people. So I got another amazing guest today. Before I get into introducing my guest, I want to just make sure that I'm covering some of the business up front. And that is make sure that you are liking and you are reviewing this show wherever you're listening to it. Share it if it's on Facebook. Make sure that you're letting people know about it if you're listening to it on the podcast platforms out there. Rate and review it. It really helps me get the show out. It makes it worth doing this. And it helps us grow our audience. So make sure you're also following me at the Real Don Costa on Instagram. I'm really trying to build my Instagram account. If you are willing to do that, I would be grateful 100%. So, and then of course we have our incredible mastermind community, the Inner Circle Elite, and we're always looking for people that are looking to add value and grow their business. We're looking to build the beast in the industry. So go to beinthisroom.com and apply to be part of that. And last but not least, I want to plug the upcoming Rookie Playbook, the course that we're getting ready to roll out. And if you have interest in the Rookie Playbook course, make sure you're reaching out to me and letting me know, PM me or email me at donflipdoc.com. So I have Chad Bartlett with me today. Can't get my words out this morning. We're just having that conversation for whatever reason. And I don't drink coffee and I probably need coffee. So, but Chad, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, Don, thanks for having me on. How's your day?
It's good. It's fantastic. So you and I actually had a chance to meet in person, and it was near San Francisco. I'm trying to think of the name of the town. It started with the B, and it's not on the tip of my tongue right now. But we got to meet at with Jason Boozy put together like a little meetup thing. We got to hang out a little bit. So it's good to talk to you and see that you're doing things that you like to do and catch up. So I'm excited to do it.
Yeah, man, it's been a while. It's good to reconnect.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in this business.
You know, I didn't know a lot about real estate when I first got into it. You know, I thought that real estate was all for the Donald Trumps and, you know, the multimillionaires of the world. I didn't know that you can start small and build up. For me, it was just out of necessity. I was living in Anchorage, Alaska. I was working as an auto mechanic full time. And I was also going to college because, you know, that's how you're taught. You grow up, you get good grades, you go to college, and that's how you get a good career and move on from there. So I thought that freedom from my mechanics job was going to be me going to college and get an anthropology degree. Turns out, spoiler alert, with a bachelor's degree in anthropology, you can't make any money. So I was still stuck in the same situation that I was. And, you know, I saw a late night guru on an infomercial. And my first thought was, that's probably a scam. That's probably a scam right there. but as it continued to go on, I said, look, you know, if one of these people on these testimonials is real, I can do it too. And I just wanted to have a better life. I wanted to spend more time with my family. When I got into real estate, Don, I was married with 2 kids. I'm blessed to have 4 now, but I was just trying to figure out how to have a work-life balance, and mechanics was not affording me that work-life balance at all.
Very cool. So it's funny because a lot of us got started the same way. We watched somebody. Was your late night guru Carlton Sheets, or was it somebody else?
No, it was Dean Graziosi. That's who I saw.
Okay, all right.
Back in 2011.
Yeah. So was he still doing? Wow. Okay. So well, my late night guru experience is like 2000 and something, right? 2001. But it's funny how that kind of is the catalyst. And I just want to, you know, a lot of people will bash some of these gurus. I want to say this because when I talk to a lot of people, one of 2 things is what got them in. It's either Think and Grow Rich. Well, actually, Rich Dad Poor Dad is usually what they say, or some kind of late night guru. Right. And so for better or for worse, they're the reason why so many people are successful in this business. And sure. So we can't knock them. Right. So, okay. Well, what was your journey like? So tell me about kind of getting your first deal. You got out there, you decided you're going to do this. What did that look like?
Yeah. So I was just grinding out in Alaska, you know, still working full time at a job and just trying to figure out how to get free. And I'd wake up early in the morning, maybe 5 o'clock, and just try to put my feelers out in marketing. And then, you know, when I was turning wrenches as a mechanic, you know, the phone would ring, and some of my guys in the shop, they'd take cigarette breaks, and I didn't smoke cigarettes, but if my phone rang, I took a success break and I would answer my phone, and I would just do whatever it took to try to, you know, scratch and claw my way to a deal. But no matter what I was doing, I just couldn't figure out the Anchorage, Alaska market. And I was grinding, Don, for probably 6 months until I made the decision. You know what? I know Kansas City. I used to live there when I was in the military. I lived there for a few years before we moved to Alaska. Since I know it in my adult life, let me just turn my focus there and stop focusing on what's not working. And 30 days after, I just abandon altogether Alaska because I wasn't smart enough to figure that out and start focusing on Kansas City, I did my first deal. And my first deal was done remotely. I didn't know the term remote investing or virtual wholesaling. I didn't know any of those things existed. I just knew out of necessity, I had to try to figure out a market that would make sense for my goals. So that's how I did my first deal. I was just really grassroots. I was a Craigslist bandit. I was just on there every hour, just looking for the latest and greatest for sale by owner in the list. And that's how my first deal really came about. And when the first deal came about, it was proof of concept that it worked. I knew that if I could get one deal, I could get 100 deals, and I just needed that one to prove it to myself. And a few months later, I had enough deal flow coming in that I was able to quit my mechanics job and packed up the family, and we moved to Kansas City to get closer to my business.
Very cool. So that's actually a cool story. You just took action. I mean, that's really what it came down to, right? Kind of figured it out as you went along. So I'm assuming your first deal was a for sale by owner.
That's right. Yeah. My first handful of deals were just for sale by owners that I found off Craigslist, man.
Right. Which, I mean, whether or not Craigslist is the resource, there are for sale by owner sites and stuff like that. So for sale by owner is still a great way to acquire a deal today that I think a lot of people don't think about anymore. Cold calling for sale by owners and stuff like that is still probably one of the great ways to get a deal when you're trying to figure things out. You don't have a lot of money. So just want to plug that in there for anybody who's watching this or listening to this. So very cool. So you started to build a business. What did that look like?
Well, what happened, Don, is when I was in Alaska, I had streamlined a lot of my processes because out of necessity, I had to delegate everything. And when I moved to Kansas City, I decided that I was going to be doing everything myself. And I saw that my business was growing really, really slow because of it. And I was scratching my head trying to figure it out. In my head, I said, look, I was doing this part-time, just trying to fight my way to get a few deals to be able to quit my job. Now that I quit my job, I'm in my business full time, just trying to run the business full time for myself, and I'm doing everything myself. And I found out as a byproduct of that, I wasn't happy, first and foremost, and second of all, I had this roller coaster income, kind of this feast or famine, highs and lows, and it was just kind of crushing me, man, to be honest with you. So I realized that what I was doing inside of my business wasn't making much sense. And I had to think about what got me the success in the first place and just do more of that. So, that's when I started trying to figure out how to outsource and put some systems in place just to streamline my processes and make my life a little bit better.
So basically what you're telling me is that you started to build a business that became a prison, essentially, which is not what we get in this for, right?
Exactly, man. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, okay. So when you realized that you were handcuffing yourself and closing the bars and locking them around you, and you decided to start to find ways to get out of your business, what were some of the first things you did? Because a lot of people will ask, like, do I hire? Do I outsource? Do I do this? Do I do that? What were some of the first things you started to put in place that you started to discover would help you accomplish the goal of getting out of your business?
I had to start asking myself some important questions, and it started off with what's the most time-consuming activities that I'm doing right now, and what do I dislike the most about doing inside of my business? And right away, I came up with the idea of being on the phone. You're when you start a business, you're on the phone, because you have to be on the phone. Right. But the more I'm in the business, I don't like being on the phone. I don't know about you, but I just don't like being on the phone anymore. So if I could get rid of that, I'd be a happy camper. So, I just started looking around and just trying to figure out, do I hire an assistant to take over the phone calls? But I realized that, I'm one person and I can only do so much. And if I hire one person, they can only do so much. And that's when I made the decision to hire a call center. And when I went through that process, it was a process of trial and error, a lot of fears built up inside of myself. Will they do the job that I would do inside the business? Will they do a good job, building rapport with the sellers, and all these kind of typical fears when you're a business owner, that you think that you're the best in every single aspect of your business and nobody can do it like you. But I was able to quiet a lot of those noises down by realizing that once I could give them the script and give them the tools to be successful, I could check back in with them, whether it's listening to recordings or actually just do a ghost call and pretend to be a seller and ask them curveball questions and make sure that they're answering the questions appropriately. Because at the end of the day, the call centers want your business. They want to do a good job. They want you to give them feedback and give them opportunity to do better. So with that, that was the first thing that I outsourced.
Okay, so when you say call center, do you mean like VAs, or do you mean like you hired a call center that did this stuff already? Like what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so my very first call center was called Pat Live, and they're out of Arizona, I think.
Right, I've
And
used
they
them.
were, their gimmick was no matter if it was a guy or a girl, they answered the phone. Hi, this is Pat. How can I help you? And so that was kind of a cool gimmick. But I've switched since then. But it's all been local. I love overseas help. You know, that's huge. And the more that I travel, you know, the more I understand how valuable that is. But I wanted my first touch to be local. So I have a company out of Arizona that's a call center, and they work with all sorts of different industries, including real estate.
You mind sharing the name of that?
No, I don't have any problem at all. It used to be called Answer One, and now it's called Nexa, Nexa.
Okay.
Nexa.com is who I use. And I really enjoy them because, first of all, they do a great job. But secondly, they do outbound calls as well. And some call centers just won't do that for you. They'll answer the phone when it rings. But if you need them to place a call, like for example, on my websites, if somebody's filling out a web form, I want to make sure that somebody on the team is reaching back out to them right away. And Nexa will make those outbound calls as well for me.
So they're essentially for you, they're like a lead manager.
Yeah, they do data entry and they take the first point of contact. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What about, so like, okay, I'm not going to bash Pat Live. I used them for a while. But I wasn't necessarily happy with them compared to like having somebody internally in my office, because they didn't rapport build as much as I would like them to have done. They didn't pivot as much as I would like them to have done in the conversation. They were order takers, right? Essentially, which if you can't answer the phone yourself, it's better to have an order taker than a voicemail. I think we can agree on that. But ideally, you want to get away from order takers. So this company you use now, would you call them order takers still, better order takers, or would you say that they really kind of encompass what you're trying to accomplish when the phone is getting answered?
I think if you have an in-office staff that can handle all of your calls, then you know that it's personalized 100%, and you can put the training into each individual that answers your calls, Don. So with your in-house staff, I of course they're going to be superior to Nexa, but I think if I can give my people the tools and the scripts, they can read between the lines. But I will say this, it really depends on the individual who's answering the call. The call center might have 100 people there. And one of the things that I've asked them to give my script just to a few people there so that they really understand my script and understand my business and what is my goal. You know, if you don't let the call center know what your goals are, then they're just going to assume that's just it. They're just going to be a message taker. They're just scribbling notes on a pad that they're going to pass along to you, and you'll hit the ground running. Instead of what's really important in our business is building rapport and being able to answer questions that are outside the lines.
Right. Okay. So you outsourced to a call center. What was your next step?
My next step was a virtual assistant. I was looking at the tasks that I was doing inside my business, and it just didn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. You know, if I'm the CEO of my business, why am I focused on, you know, looking at formatting mail mergers to send them to cold call lists and all these other tasks that I could easily outsource to somebody else for a fraction? First of all, they'd be more efficient than me. Instead of me trying to do 20 different things at once, they're going to be more efficient than me just in that alone. But then the cost to be able to hire somebody to do some of these small tasks, it didn't make any sense not to, just to at least get some more hours back of my time. So I started with the call center. When I realized that my business didn't close its doors because I wasn't answering the phone, then it gave me the confidence that I could start doing that brick by brick, piece by piece inside of my business and slowly dismantling everything inside of it that way.
Okay. So you the VA, like what kind of tasks, you know, I'm sure that's somebody listening right now, I get hung up on, like, what kind of tasks did you start to give to the VA first? Like in what order?
Yeah. So the first thing is when the call center takes the lead goes into my CRM. I use Podio. And if there's anybody that doesn't understand what a CRM is, it's just like a machine that takes in all your leads and lets you schedule tasks and follow-ups and keeps everything organized.
Right.
Back when I first started, I was keeping notes on the back of envelopes and little scraps of paper, and things were getting lost in the shuffle back in 2011. So anyways, the notes are getting left into the CRM, and then my virtual assistant is getting notified that we have a new lead. And the virtual assistant makes sure that all those questions have been answered, that it's important for me to be able to make a decision. And then they're pulling comparables. They're accessing the MLS. So we're blessed that we were able to have MLS access in the different markets that we're in. Whether you have a relationship or you're able to approach an agent and look for a secretarial or an assistant account, that's a step that's been important for growing my business, is just to be able to have actual MLS access and pull those comps. So my virtual assistant would do that and just make sure that the seller lead is gift wrapped. So by the time I would get inside the business, I have all the information that I need to be able to make a decision on it.
Okay. Very cool. So, and then at what point did you decide to travel? Like what other pieces did you have to put in place before you decided that you just didn't want to sit in one place anymore?
Yeah, I just started streamlining everything, piece by piece. The next thing was I was spending so much time doing windshield time, going to the properties to look at these properties. Let me get rid of that. Let me hire, acquisitions. Let me get rid of negotiations. Let me get rid of dispositions. And it slowly morphed into me working 60, 70, us entrepreneurs on the line right now. We know sometimes we're in our business 80 hours plus just to try to grind it out. And at one point I just kind of looked up and I said, man, I don't really have much to do anymore. Like I only have maybe 4, 5, 6 hours a week spent. All I'm doing is overseeing my day to day, making sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that's when I realized, like, I'm spending all this time with my family, and that's great. And we had adapted the suburban life, which is great. But I've always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to travel full time. When I was going to school for anthropology, that's why I went to school for anthropology. I wanted to travel full time. And it turns out it doesn't work like that. When I joined the Army because I wanted to travel all the time. And they sent me to Kansas. It didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out, Don. And so, my real estate business was the tool, the vehicle that was going to allow me to travel full time. And that was in June 2018. I looked at my business and, realized that it didn't need me to survive. I could just really be hands off, with the exception of overseeing it and making sure everything was running correctly. And so in the middle of the year 2018, that summer, we packed up our family and we made the decision.
Okay. And what does that look like since?
So we've been traveling through Central America and South America, and we've been able to do some pretty cool things and see some cool things. That being said, spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with your wife and 4 kids, the idea was to homeschool. And a few months into that, we were thinking, Don, we said, maybe there's some good schools out there that we could send them to and increase their education. So, Don, we started looking at schools here in South America, and we found this great international school. They've got a great community of friends here. They're learning entrepreneurship, and I don't know when they're cussing at me, man. Their Spanish is so good. They can talk behind my back, and I'm not sure what they're saying. And I'm just so proud that I'm able to give that to them, just time spent and giving them opportunities. I think as parents, we just want to be able to give, our kids whatever opportunities we can. And I know for every parent that looks totally different. But
Right.
For me, it was important for me to be able to let them see what was going on, across the globe. And there's a lot that we can learn from other cultures.
Yeah, no, very cool. So let me ask you this. Since you've started traveling, so you've been doing it for about 2 years now, right? So has your business diminished? Has it grown? Has it stayed about the same? What does that look like?
In the beginning, it diminished. There was, I was living streamlined processes. And then as I started traveling, I actually had the opportunity to break some of the systems that weren't working without me having to be there. And it was an opportunity for me to redesign it and make it stronger. So, I think on social media and through some of the mentorship, it's easy for some of these students and some of these investors to think that it's all good 24/7, and it's really not. There's a lot of mistakes and a lot of hardships that happen along the way to get to the final product that a lot of people see all polished up on social media, man. Like it was tough at first. I had this idealized version of what it was going to be like inside of my mind. And the practical application of it was a big portion of my business was flips. I was flipping all the time. I had 8 active flips going on when we left. I had a project manager that was amazing until I left the country, and then he wasn't. And that portion of my business started to lose money. And I hired another project manager on the road, and then another project manager on the road, and another project manager on the road, until I realized that this business model that I have isn't working for the lifestyle that I want to have. And that's when I made the decision to just go back into wholesaling and really focus on wholesaling and only be really selective with the flips that I'm doing. There's no reason for me to have to be pulling my hair out to have my business. That's not why I got into business. And so, yeah, Don, that's a great question, man. I really had to design that were my goals and make adjustments based on that.
Yeah, so that's good that you share that, because it's true that only the highlight reel gets shared. We talk about that a lot on this show, that people only see the highlight reel. And when we talk about systems, like, cause I can say that I got systems in my business, I got some phenomenal systems, but really systems come down to people. And and people, sometimes they burn out. Sometimes when what's the word? Trying to think. Anyway, there's a word about when something's away, the something will play, right? I don't know the term, but you know what I'm saying, right?
I know what you're talking about.
So basically when you go, does your team still execute on the level that they would execute when you're there? And the answer is probably, in some cases, like you learn, no. And that's some hard truth. So the practical reality. So it doesn't matter, people can sit there and tell you they're going to sell you systems in a box. You still got to find the right people to implement them. And that's the hardest part of this business. So I'm glad you kind of shared that. It didn't go perfect, but the point is you stuck it out and still was willing to design the life you wanted. So fantastic. So what does the future look like for you? Like moving forward, like now at this point in time? Well, okay. How is your business doing today? Is it doing good?
Yeah, the business is great, man. I couldn't be happier. Like you said, there's some hardships and it's an opportunity to learn. And
Right.
sometimes we get really hard on ourselves, but you kind of lick the wounds and you pull yourself up, and you really just got to ask yourself, why did this happen, or why is this happening? It's the old adage, lesson repeated until lesson learned. Some of us have thicker skulls than others, so we keep going through the same lessons.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's good, man. I'm really happy with where my business is at. It's been sustained for quite some time now, and I'm comfortable. I'm not so stressed, and I don't have this kind of weight that I've had in the past before. I think I finally have it. Of course, there's tweaks that you have to make here and there. I don't have any disillusions that it's going to be perfect forever, but in this moment, I'm happy, man. I'm really happy with what it's turned into and what it's become, but it wasn't easy to get there.
Well, fantastic. So any advice you give somebody just starting out?
One of the biggest things is to understand your value inside of your business. I don't think a lot of people have thought to ask themselves, what's my hourly rate inside of my business? For example, if I'm doing a small wholesale, just for round numbers, let's say I get a wholesale deal for 10K, and it took me 5 hours to get that deal of my own time. That means that my value inside of my business is $2,000 an hour. So if people can really focus on and determine what their hourly rate is inside their business, and then realize if you're doing $10 an hour stuff, you're really taking away time that you could be spent making more of these $2,000 an hour decisions, and prioritizing your time a little bit more and looking at it as an actual resource inside your business. You wouldn't hire an expensive 6-figure a year COO or CEO to help with the daily, day-to-day of your business, and then ask them to format spreadsheets or answer seller phone calls. It doesn't make sense. So
Right.
us as business owners, we got to ask ourselves, why do we do that as well?
Very true. Very true. Fantastic. Well, this has been a really good conversation. Anything that you feel like I didn't cover or ask that you want to make sure you get off your chest?
No, I think you asked some really good questions, man. Hopefully it's valuable to your listeners, and it's something that they can take and apply, man. It's one piece at a time. It's hard when you look at the big picture and think, man, I don't know that I can ever get there, but you put your head down and piece by piece, just take one step at a time. And then when you look back, hopefully be proud of what you built.
Very true. Very true. So tell everybody how to get a hold of you.
You can check me out at my website. It's called the Autopilot.life. The Autopilot Life is all about putting your systems and your business on autopilot so you can live the life that you want. So check me out at the Autopilot.life.
Okay, very cool. Well, if you got value from the show, make sure that you're sending a lot of likes on Facebook or wherever you're watching this at this point in time. If you are listening to it on any other platform, make sure that you're liking and reviewing. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, it does go a long way. I do read them and they do matter to me. So follow me on Instagram at the Real Don Costa. Make sure you're doing that. And if you share this show and you send me a photo, I'll send you a link to get a free t-shirt, free, no shipping, no nothing. I'll actually send it to you. I'll send you a link just to give me your size and information on where to mail it. If you rate and review this show on any platform that you're listening, you send me a picture that you've done that. I will send you a link to get the t-shirt as well. So a Flip Talk t-shirt. And of course, if you want to be part of a mastermind community, the Inner Circle Elite community is looking for people who want to grow their business. They want to help people. They want to grow their business. They want to become better at what they do. Go to beinThisRoom.com and check out what we have for you. You do not want to miss out on being in this room. So go to beinThisRoom.com. So, man, thank you for being with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Don.